My name is Larry Ballou. I'm a circuit rider, motorcycle evangelist, and I am here today to tell you about Christ and tell you what Christ has done for me in my life. To start off, I had a drug problem at an early age, and people think about that and freak out, but my drug problem is I was drugged to church every day that the doors were open. I was born and raised in Texas, and I was raised in First Assembly of God Church in Thornton, Texas. And my mom drugged me to church every time the doors were open. When I was a teenager, I became very rebellious and started running from God and started doing my own thing, quit going to church that I was raised in, and started going to church in a town nearby to chasing skirts. If you don't know what that means, I was just going to church to chase girls. And I ended up running into this beautiful lady. She's now my wife. And as we was dating and going to that church, not living a Christian life, just because you go to church don't mean you live a Christian life, people. Don't mean that you're going to heaven just because you attend church. As we was going to church, the youth pastor there prophesied over me and her, saying that we was going to be married and that we was going to be youth pastors. Well, as you can imagine, that scared us, and we started running from God even harder. I started doing drugs, and me and her both started doing some drinking and partying and stuff like that, and having premarital sex. And at the age of 21, and she was 18, we got married. Still wasn't living a Christian life even then. About a year after we got married, our marriage started getting on rocks. At the time, I was still kind of messing around with the alcohol and stuff, but I was working as a prison guard, and I ended up in a guard tire for about 3 nights straight in a row. And if any of you have ever been in a prison guard tire, you know it's boring, more especially on night shift. I was there about 3 nights in a row. All there was to do is clean my guns and look at the stars. And just so happened to be that there was a old King James Bible in that guard tire. So in order to stay awake, I picked that Bible up and started reading it. And as I started reading it, the Spirit of God started speaking to my heart. And I ignored it and put it down the first night. Second night, same situation. I picked that Bible up, started reading it, the Spirit started speaking to my heart. I shook my head and put it down. And the third night, same thing. It's unusual for me to be in the same guard tire 3 nights in a row, but I was. This is a God thing, people. God does stuff like that just to get your attention. So the third night, I was in the guard tire that third night. Same situation. I picked the Bible up, started reading it, and the Holy Spirit started speaking to my heart, and I couldn't ignore Him that night. The Holy Spirit started telling me, you started reminding me of my past, how I had spoken in tongues and how I had prayed before when I was a kid, and how I'd known the power of God in my life as a kid. And He started telling me, if you want your marriage, you know what to do. If you want your marriage, you know what to do. That's all He would tell me. So I broke down that night in that guard tire. Went home that next morning, woke my wife up, told my wife we need to go to church. It's time for us to straighten our lives back up. We need to go to church. Well, she laughed at me. She said, you're not going to go to church. I said, we need to go to church. She said, okay, what church are you going to go to? I told her I need to go back home to my home church. She laughed at me again. She said, you hate those people. You hate the pastor. The only ones you don't hate in that is your family, and that's because they're your family. See, people, when you get away from God, you get away from Christ, you start living the life of the devil, you start running from God, you don't do nothing but get hard and cold in your heart. You start getting mean. And I was one of those people. If you know any of my brothers, you can ask them. I wasn't a very likable person. I was mean. I was cold-hearted. And if I could cause you pain, I was more happy. So she laughed at me. And She said, I tell you what, she said, if I'm off Sunday morning, we'll go to church. She was off Sunday morning, we went to church. And guys, that was back in 2001. If I remember right, it's in May of 2001 or 2000. We have been youth pastors since then. We have been youth pastors of a fairly large youth group, and we are now circuit rider motorcycle ministry evangelists. And I'm going to tell you now, I've never had more fun being a Christian in my life than I am right now. I love it. I love God with all my heart. Anything I do, anywhere I can go to witness to somebody, to save a soul or see a soul saved or pray with somebody, I'm all for it. I follow God with all my heart. My wife and my little girl, all three of us do. So if you don't know God, if you don't know Jesus, you can go to my MySpace at Local Larry 76 at MySpace. And you can look me up, and that's got my phone number, it's got my email address, and you can get in touch with me. And I will pray with you and do whatever you want to. However you want. I want you to know the same Jesus that I know. The same Jesus that I've followed for the past 8 or 9 years. I promise you, you will never regret it. I'm not going to tell you this is the easiest road, but I will tell you it's the best road you've ever traveled. I thank you for watching this video.